Right, today, in continuation with our previous lecture, we are moving on to the next chapter, and this chapter is program activities. This is chapter 8 of the PMBOK, the Standard for Program Management, and this is the last chapter. Now, this chapter is almost double the material we covered in the previous chapter, so I suppose it will take one more day after this, and once we are done with that, then we can have one more session to conclude everything. So there is not much difference in this chapter. We have got three parts in this chapter, just corresponding to the program life cycle. So all the program activities related to definition phase will be discussed in the first part, then program delivery phase activities, then program closure phase activities. That way things will be much more organized. And it is also in continuation with whatever the life cycle chapter we had studied already. We studied that in these three phases. Given the scope and complexity of a program, numerous supporting program activities are performed throughout the program life cycle. You see, once the components are being executed, when the components are being implemented, during that period, naturally, component managers or the project managers are responsible for day-to-day working of the component. But what about getting the feedback and making the decisions for the program, whether the benefits are being received and they are being properly converted or not? So we said earlier that program activities are meant for coordinating amongst various components and also perform certain activities. Now, in the last chapter, we talked about some integrative activities and infrastructure and all that, monitoring and control, all that. That was integration. But in addition to integration, there is a scope of the program. There is a time of the scope, schedule of the program, overall program. So those things are also supporting program activities, and they are covered under various domains. We will discuss those 10 domains which I mentioned to you in the previous lecture also. The definitions and terminology associated with these activities at the program level are very similar to those at the project level. This also we had discussed earlier. However, program activities operate at a higher level, as we talked about it, dealing with the multiple projects and other programs, and addressing links between the program and the organizational strategy. You see, the purpose of the program is to be satisfied by these program activities, and that is always at a higher level. It looks after all the components and whether those components are serving the organizational strategy or not. While they may utilize component level information, the activities generally integrate the information to reflect a program perspective. So that explains it all. These are the 10 different domains which we have these supporting program activities coming from, and all of these domains, all of these program activities support program management and the program governance, and they include the program change management, program communications management, financial management, information management, procurement management, quality management, resource management, risk management, schedule management, and scope management. Now, they are not listed here in order of importance, but in order of alphabets. So this is in alphabetical order. Change comes first. It doesn't mean the change is the most important thing. Maybe scope and schedule must be listed in the top if it was for the importance. The program activities enable a strategic approach to planning, monitoring, controlling, and delivering program outputs and delivers benefits. Program management supporting activities require coordination with functional groups in the organization, but in a broader context than similar activities supporting a single project. Now, the program activities we discussed yesterday or the previous lecture, the integrative activities, the first point is about that. That is responsible for enabling strategic approach to planning, monitoring, controlling, and delivering the program output and benefits. That is the responsibility of the integrative activities. These are generally called program activities. Now what we are talking about is project management supporting activities. These supporting activities are coming from those 10 different domains. And naturally they require coordination with the functional groups in the organization. And as we said, that their names are very similar in many ways to the project management terms. So you have to understand that this is the higher level. This is the program level supporting activities, and they are not exactly similar to or exactly the same as the project management knowledge areas. First of all, program definition phase. Now, out of the 10 different domains, what all is to be done during the program definition phase? We understand the very first phase of the program life cycle is program definition, which is further subdivided into program formulation and program planning. And if you remember, in program formulation, we were creating the program business case, program charter, which included the roadmap, and in program planning, we were creating the program management plan. In formulation, the high-level scope, risk, cost, and expected benefits of the program are assessed to confirm that program represents a viable way forward for the organization and is well aligned with the organization's strategic objectives. So in formulation, naturally we are focused only towards the feasibility or the business case, and then issuance of the charter. So here we are only looking at certain domains, and in those domains like scope, risk, and cost and expected benefits, we are performing the assessment to confirm that the program will be able to be viable and it is in alignment with the strategic objectives. So high level scope, risk, cost, and expected benefits, this much is done here at the higher level. These program activities supporting program formulation are often exploratory in nature because we do not know everything at this stage. So they try to explore at this stage, and later on, through progressive elaboration, we will be building the whole picture of the program, and we will keep amending the program management plan accordingly, naturally through a proper change control process. Looking at a number of possible alternatives to ensure the one best aligned with strategy and organizational preferences can be identified and approved for inclusion into the program. So once we are doing the business case, we must look at all the various possible alternatives and which is the best one. However, in some cases, program formulation leads to the conclusion that the program does not have a strong business case and the program is stopped. So right in the outset, if the program is not feasible, it is going to be killed right here. The figure shown here shows the 10 domains on the left and how does it interact, how program formulation activities contribute to the development of program business case and the program charter through core activity of program integration management. So integration management is separate These supporting program activities are separate. Uh, the activities of integration or program integration management activities are just called the program activities. These activities from these 10 domains are called the supporting program activities. Now, looking at it from the perspective of how it is helping us to develop the program business case and the charter. So, integration interacts the program activities, core program activities interact with the supporting program activities coming from all various of the domains, and integration is in control. There is no direct connection with strategic guidance or business case or the program charter. This all is under control of the integration, and the guideline how this will be done is provided in the program governance. So remaining within the bounds of program governance, program integration management would seek guidance on strategy from the program governance and then provide the business case to the program governance. Naturally, business case will be approved by the steering committee, and once the business case is approved, the charter will be issued by program governance to the program integration. So this is how it is going to work out. As part of program formulation, potential change management considerations are identified and assessed to help develop the program business case. So change management becomes an important role here. That domain would naturally, we have already said that whatever we are doing is exploratory in nature, and there is a chance of things changing over time. Even if the program management plan was created, that also will go through the progressive elaboration cycle, and that change in the program management plan cannot be brought in without a proper change control mechanism. So change management considerations are to be identified right from the outset, and they must be assessed to help develop the business case, later on the charter, and ultimately the program management plan. So program change assessment identifies sources of change, how the changes, from where the changes can come, such as the volatility of the enterprise environmental factors, the sensitivity of the proposed program business case to changes in organizational strategy, and the possible frequency and magnitude of changes that may arise from components during program delivery. Now you see, we are still in the formulation. We are still in the very beginning, and still we are trying to identify what kinds of changes, when these changes can come, how they can be treated. Although we are collecting, identifying and assessing this data, but this is again exploratory in nature. As we move ahead, we will further refine this process. But naturally, the process of change management should start right from here. It then estimates the likelihood and possible impacts of the changes that could arise from those sources and proposes measures that could be taken to enable the program to respond to such changes in a positive rather than disruptive way. So we do not want to disrupt the program right in the middle when the things are being delivered. So we are laying out a program, laying out a procedure, a mechanism by which the changes can be smoothly brought in to the program management plan. Output of this activity is the program change assessment. So in addition to the feasibility or the business case and the charter and the program management plan, we are also expecting some other outputs like program change assessment, which will naturally include those things like sources and timings and all that, which is an input to the program business case, program charter, and the program change management planning. So this assessment is going to help us develop the business case, charter, and the change management plan. And naturally, you must understand that the change management plan is going to be part of the program management plan. Program management plan is the integrative core activities, program activities, and within that we will have the plans for all the 10 supporting domains. Then communication. Program communication management is different from project communication naturally, because here we are talking about intercommunication amongst the components or the projects. Since it affects a wider array of stakeholders with widely varying communication needs, different communication approaches and methods of delivery may be required. So this is not exactly the same science. It is just not the project communication alone. This is more complex, because we are dealing with more number of stakeholders and their needs and expectations might be very different. And naturally, once we talk about the stakeholder, then again the same point would come up. So an initial assessment of the communication needs of the program is a key input to the program charter. Given the broad scope of the program, naturally we should have a broad scope of the program also, which we will talk about later. But if we have that, a wide range of stakeholders may be involved, and maintaining effective communication with internal and external stakeholders can prevent more serious problems from arising. So we have to have this kind of initial assessment. I'm not talking about creating the whole communication plan right at this stage of formulation, but at least you must assess the communication needs broadly. It may be useful as part of program formulation to survey program stakeholders to identify their expectations for its outcome and their interest in staying informed and involved during this delivery. So, if you remember, as per PMBOK, right in the initiation process group, we used to have identification of these stakeholders from the project perspective. But here, in the formulation, we are doing the same for the program stakeholders. We are trying to identify the program stakeholders and note down their interest and expectations, needs and expectations. The output of this activity is the program communication assessment. So at this stage, we will get the program communication assessment, which is an input to the stakeholder engagement plan, program communication management plan. So all these plans, both stakeholder and program communication plan, will be greatly influenced by this communication assessment. A critical element of program business case is an estimate of its overall cost. So the next is cost assessment, an assessment of the level of confidence in this estimate. An initial cost estimate, which can be very broadly created, it may not be very accurate, is prepared in the program definition phase to determine the cost of its planning and delivery. This initial rough order of magnitude estimate allows financial decision makers to decide if the program should be funded. So this is basically for the purpose of feasibility. If generally speaking, this program looks viable as far as the cost is concerned, then it will be started. Generally, but this cost is not going to be exact. This is a rough order of magnitude estimate. So here we come up with the initial cost assessment. By a rough order of magnitude, what do we mean? Because of the limited information, time and resources available, it may be difficult to develop a highly detailed or accurate cost estimate. I hope this point must be very clear to you already. Often the numbers will only be accurate to a rough order of magnitude. Given these challenges, it can also be useful to identify the nature and sources of those costs that could not be estimated. So once you are doing this initial cost assessment, then you can also identify the nature and sources of those costs that could not be estimated. Later on, that can be further elaborated. So the output from this activity is the program initial cost estimate, which is an input to the program business case and the program charter, and detailed program cost estimation, which will come later during the program planning. The next, in program definition, after formulation, once we are doing the program planning, creating the program management plan, that detailed calculation will come later. A program will likely generate a large amount of documentation, data, and other records throughout its life cycle. How easily this information can be collected, shared, and maintained may have a significant effect on both program team efficiency and how the program is perceived by its stakeholders. So, the need for information management is there. That means all the documentation, data, and records are to be kept according to the information management needs, and the assessment of information management needs is to be carried out right in formulation. The information management needs of the program should be considered as part of program formulation so that possible financial, organizational, or resource implications can be assessed. Output of this activity is the program information management assessment, which is an input to the program business case, program charter, program information management plan, etc. Coming over to procurement, an assessment of the procurement needs of the program can be valuable input to the program charter. If we can understand right in the beginning, if we can assess what all parts of this program would require procurements to be done, so procurement policies and procedures and practices can be put in place. Although procurement policies and practices are typically part of the organizational or environmental factors, we are not going to create a new policy here that already exists before the program is authorized. There are cases where programs involving public-private partnership or programs involving organizations or work in multiple countries where the program itself presents unique procurement challenges. So in that case, we probably have to tailor the procurement policies and practice according to our unique challenges. A program procurement assessment should be prepared during a program definition when procurement presents special challenges or represents a significant level of effort during program delivery. Output naturally would be the program procurement management assessment, which is naturally going to be an input to the business case, to the charter, to the procurement management plan, etc. As far as quality is concerned, an assessment of quality constraints, expectations, quality expectations, risks in quality, and how to control the quality, the controls should be included as part of the program formulation. Organizational and regulatory quality standards may act as important constraint on program delivery, particularly in the case of a compliance program. For example, your organization is ISO certified. Then naturally, the quality policy is governed in accordance with the ISO, the quality plan prepared under ISO certification. And therefore, your program will have to be constrained according to that, remaining within the limits. Expectations about the quality of program output may serve as important input to determine program cost and required program infrastructure and resources. And from where this point comes, expectation about quality usually comes from the customer. And if the customer expects a higher quality coming out of the program, then it may affect the cost and your program infrastructure and resources also as a response to that. The ability of program suppliers to comply with quality standards may also be an important consideration for the program procurement and risk assessment. Naturally, the items we are procuring, if your suppliers can supply those items according to the quality required, only then it will be useful. So this is an important consideration. If they can't, then probably this is a part of your to be considered in your program procurement and in your risk assessment. Finally, the need for program quality reviews or audits may be considered important to enable program governance. Because we are actually doing everything in accordance with the program governance, so there must be some check and balance mechanism established through reviews and audits to ensure that program governance is properly being followed as far as the quality is concerned. The output is the program quality assessment, which is an input to business case, charter, quality management plan. Resources. Resources required to plan and deliver a program include people, office space, laboratories, data centers, other facilities, equipment of all types, software, vehicle, everything, assets of all kinds. We need to have an estimate of all these resources also. An estimate of required resources, particularly staff and facilities, which may have long lead times or affect ongoing activities, is required to prepare the program business case and should be reflected in the program charter. And naturally, it is also going to affect your program management plan later. Output of this activity is program resource requirements estimate. And again, I would say this is a broad, a high level estimate. This is not supposed to be a very accurate or detailed, which is an input to the program business case, charter, and the resource management plan. And where are these management plans being created? They are going to be created in the next subphase, and that is program planning subphase. In program planning, we will be creating the management plan for each one of these areas, and those management plans will, like resource management plan, quality management plan, from the program perspective, they will be included into the program management plan. Risk. Program risk is an event or series of events or conditions that, if they occur, may affect the success of the program. Naturally, you know a lot about risks already. You understand the positive risks are often referred to as opportunities and negative risks as threats. These risks arise from the program components. Now we are talking about the program. So these are the program risks. So these risks from they arise from the program components and their interaction. Some risks are coming directly from the program, from the projects or the components, and some are due to the interaction amongst various components with each other. From technical complexity, schedule or cost constraint, and with the broader environment in which the program is managed. Here I must clarify one thing. If there is a project risk or a component risk, should it be included in the program risk? What do you think, Julian?
Repeat the question.
If you have a project risk, will it be also program risk?
If it affects other components of the program, I would think so.
Exactly.
If it's only within that project, I don't think so.
Exactly. Such project risks which do not affect other components and the organizational strategy also. These are two things. One is interaction with other components, and the other thing is they affect the benefit delivery or strategic alignment. Then they become the program business, right? Anything which is not affecting this remains a project risk, and project manager does not need to share that with the program manager. Program manager will assess the project risk and see if there is a risk which can be escalated to the program level due to the reasons we have just described. So all project risks are not program risks. Some of the project risks may become program risks. And there might be some other program risks which are not coming from any project. They are exclusively due to the interaction. They are due to the program activities. So that will be recognized and identified at the program level only. I hope I clarified this point.
But if a project manager doesn't necessarily state a project risk and he's not aware of other projects within the program that may be affected,
Mm,
that itself may be a risk.
yeah,
If we're saying he doesn't have to state this risk to the program manager.
right. First of all, a program manager is there to, you know, coordinate the effort of all the components. And naturally, all the components would have been briefed already. What is their role in the whole big scenario of the program? So they must consider those aspects. Number one. Number two, all the program components will submit their management plans to the program manager ultimately. And program manager, along with his team, would be responsible to review their project risks, and out of them, if he feels some of them qualify to be the program risk, he will pick them up, in addition to other program risks which he will identify himself. Does that satisfy you, query?
Yes, that makes sense.
Okay. So these risks arise from the program components and their interaction with each other, from technical complexities, schedule and cost constraints, and with the broader environment in which the program is managed. These risks could come from anywhere, from anywhere. Two aspects of risk should be assessed during program definition. First, an identification of the key risks that the program may encounter and their relative likelihood and impact should be developed as an input to the program business case and the program charter. Again, I would say at a higher level, not a detailed thing, but as we used to identify risks in a project charter, similarly, we are trying to identify some risks in the business case and the project charter. This is what we need to do here, and they may not be uh, very detailed risks. But whatever you identify, whatever high level risk you identify here, must be assessed for its likelihood and impact. Second, an assessment of the organization's willingness to accept and deal with the risk. This is very important because our risk becomes a risk looking at the tolerance of the stakeholders. So, how much risk your organization is ready to accept, that would define if something qualifies to be a risk or not. Sometimes referred to as a risk appetite. What is the risk appetite of your organization? How much can they bear comfortably? Is essential in understanding the level of effort that may be required to monitor and assess risks during program delivery. So you are laying down the ground for the future risk planning, program risk planning. Output of this activity is the program initial risk assessment, which is an input to the program business case, initial cost estimate, program charter, program roadmap, program risk management plan. So this is going to be affecting, this initial risk assessment is going to be affecting a lot many documents which are being created. Schedule. Naturally, we are concerned about dates and milestones for the program. An assessment of expectations for delivery dates and benefits milestones should be part of the program charter. Naturally, we need to have those some dates, some milestones described here. This initial assessment, again initial assessment, which is not exactly particularly true. This might change later, but we should have some expectation created. So initial assessment should also state the level of confidence. How sure are we that this assessment is going to stick, and or how much is it likely to change? In the assessment of activity durations, and identify where alternative activities should be initiated if activities run into excessive delays. So we have our strategy also in place that if things are being delayed unduly what is going to be the action in that case. Output of this activity is the program schedule assessment, which is again an input to the business case, program charter, program roadmap, program schedule management plan, and all. Scope naturally is not shown here as a last domain, but it is the most important domain. Program scope defines the work required to deliver a benefit from the program perspective, not from the project perspective. Here we talk about the benefit. So what all work is required to be done at the program level to deliver those benefits, which includes the major products, services, and results with specified features and functions at the program level. Program scope management is the activities that define, develop, monitor, control, and verify program scope. So there is a program scope, and that program scope is to be defined, properly developed, monitored, and controlled. Ultimately, it is to be verified. Scope management aligns the program scope with the program's goals and objectives. So whatever is the strategy or the program's goals and objectives, they must be kept in mind. And like we created a work breakdown structure in project management, we do have the same kind of thing here. It includes work decomposition into deliverable component products designed to deliver the associated benefits. So it is not the in-depth WBS, but this is a WBS which is showing the work decomposition down to the level where the specific deliverables necessary for benefit delivery are designed, are decomposed, not any further. So further decomposition of those products is the job of the project manager. Respective project manager or component manager would be responsible for creating their project work breakdown structure, but here we are talking about the program level work breakdown structure. So the program scope is an assessment of the program scope, which includes the boundaries, links to other programs and projects, and ongoing activities, is required as part of program charter, support, initial cost, change, resource, risk, and schedule assessment. All these assessments are being affected by the scope. So this is, as I said, the most important domain out of the 10 supporting domains. This initial program scope assessment develops the program scope statement. Just like we used to have the project scope statement, here we need to have a program scope statement. The only difference is the program scope statement looks at the benefits. So what benefits are within the scope from the program goals and objectives? This input to the program charter can be obtained from the program sponsor or stakeholders through the portfolio management or stakeholder alignment activities. So the inputs are coming from either the portfolio management or the stakeholder alignment activities. So that would tell us what should be the statement of the program. So the output here we are talking about is program scope assessment, which is an input to the program charter. So that much was for the very first phase, and that was definition of the program. Now moving on to the program planning phase. Before I can move on, if you have any question as far as the definition is concerned, the phase 1 is concerned, please ask.
No.
Okay, well done. Coming over to the program planning phase activities, the biggest output here is the program management plan itself. In program planning, the program organization is defined and an initial team is deployed to develop the program management plan. So this is the responsibility of the program manager and his team, the program team, program management team. They will create the program. They are responsible for creating the program management plan and all the component plans. I mean, not really the component, the word I should use is the domain plans. The program scope management plan, program schedule management plan, and all that, they all are going to be part of the program management plan. The program management plan is developed based on the organization's strategic plan, business case, program charter, and the output from the assessments completed during the program definition. So whatever we have done during the program definition in formulation and planning, all of those things will become part of the program planning. I mean, while we are planning the creating the program management plan, all those inputs will be facilitated here. We are still talking about the sub phase program planning. We are still going through the program definition phase. This is a second sub phase, program planning. Here we are going to create the program management plan. And naturally, whatever has come from the program formulation, that is going to be input into the program management plan. And naturally, as I said already, this program management plan will include all the domain plans. Roadmap is one thing which is included in the program management plan. The plan includes the roadmap of the program components and the management arrangements through which program delivery will be monitored and controlled. So this is an outline plan how the components of the program will be orchestrated, how they will be arranged, and how they will be monitored and controlled. So this is a broad outline. The plan should be open for changes due to obvious reasons, taking into consideration that the success of a program is not measured against its baseline. Very important point. Success of a program is not measured against its baseline. It is not a project. In project, we used to measure it against the baseline. Here, we do not measure the progress of a program through its baseline, but is measured by how an organization is able to realize benefits. So here our purpose is to realize the benefits. So are we able to realize those benefits from the program outcomes or not? Program outcomes or deliverables may be all right, but they may not be contributing towards the desired benefits. And if that be the case, then you are not successful in your program. The program management plan is therefore a reference document and should be seen as a managed baseline. Managed baseline because we are not just looking at some timelines or baselines. We are looking at the realization of benefits. So this is a term used for that, which is called managed baseline. In the next slide, we'll see a diagram which will illustrate how these program planning activities support the development of the program management plan through the core activity of program integration management. So this is how we have already seen things. We had in the earlier slide, we have seen 8.1. We had the business case, we had the program charter, and in that diagram, there was an arrow going from program case, business case to program charter. And program business case was being submitted to the program governance. Here what is happening is program governance has now, when we start doing the planning, they already have the business case and they already have the charter. So and they also have all the assessments and estimates which we created in formulation. So all these three things, business case, the program charter, and the program formulation assessment for all the 10 domains, they are being sent from program governance to the integration core program activity. And now the job of core program activity is to create a comprehensive program management plan. Right? So the only thing going from integration to the program governance is the program management plan, which is the output. So there are three inputs: business case, program charter, and all other assessments. And the output is the program management plan. And naturally, integration is interacting with all the 10 domains. Now, let us look at again each one of those 10 domains, how the planning is done. Change management activities should be established to administer changes during the course of the program. So it must be clearly defined in the program management plan how and when a change can be brought in the program management plan or in any of the subsidiary plans. So how would that change be executed? What is the procedure of that? What is the change control mechanism? All that has to be decided. The program change management plan is a component of the program management plan. Naturally, this is one part of program management plan. Program management plan is a big umbrella under which we have got 10 domains. So change management plan is one domain. So every domain will have to create its own plan. So this establishes the program change management principles and procedures, which may include approach to capturing requested changes, evaluating each requested change, determining the disposition of each requested change, communicating a decision to the impacted stakeholders, documenting the change request and supporting details, and authorizing funding and work. So this is the actions to be taken. This is the plan which must be included in the change management. It is important to mention that the plan should focus on how to evaluate the impact of a change. Change in a component, change in a roadmap, or change in a technology. So whatever the case may be, look at it, how is it going to impact the program outcomes and therefore on the benefits? So expected by the stakeholders. So benefits will not be realized properly if the change management is not handled properly. Based on that assumption, the program steering committee should agree on the level of program change threshold that should trigger the change process. Therefore, is the need for steering committee interaction or their role in change management. Program management plan, though we say this is progressively elaborated and it can change, but it can only change through the change request, and the control over the change request is with the steering committee. Without the permission of steering committee, no change request can be approved. The output of this activity is the change management plan naturally, and the definition of the change threshold. How much is change? How much is change? So this is the change threshold. If there is a very minor change, you may define already that this much change will not be included as will not apply the change management plan. This much change is within the power of the maybe the component manager or program manager or whomsoever. So that much we can absorb. That defines your program change threshold. As far as communication is concerned, importance of managing communications, internal and external to the program, cannot be underestimated or overlooked. Program managers spend a significant amount of time and effort communicating with the program stakeholders, including the program team, component managers, customers, and program sponsors. Significant problems may occur if sufficient effort is not committed to communications. Now, you might be a little confused because again, the terminology is very similar to the project management. So the role is also kind of very similar, project communication and program communication. But here you see, we are specifically talking about the program stakeholders, which we have already said that these program stakeholders are more, is a wider canvas. They will include all the project team members, not only the project team members. Program team members are included in communication. Even the component team members, the concerned component team members, along with their managers, the project managers, they are also part of the communication cycle, and the relevant customers and program sponsors, all those who have to be included in this net of communication from the program point of view. Program communication management includes the activities for the timely and appropriate generation, collection, distribution, storage, retrieval, and ultimate disposal of the program information. This definition we have studied in PMBOK with the acceptance of the last two words, program information. So you see, to generate the information from where the information can be sought, collect that information, get it to the relevant stakeholder, store it into some kind of archive, retrieval mechanism, and if that information is old enough, then maybe dispose it off from the program perspective. These activities provide the critical link between people and information, and that are necessary for successful communication and decision making. What is the importance? Program communication management planning is the activity of determining the information and communication needs of the program stakeholders. When we talk about the stakeholder engagement, we talk about the stakeholder needs and expectations about everything. But here we only talk about the information and communication needs of the program stakeholders based on who needs what information, when they need it, how it will be given to them, and by whom. So you have to determine that how your stakeholders need certain communications to happen. The program communications management plan is again the component of the project program management plan that describes how, when, and by whom information will be administered and disseminated. So roles and responsibilities must be defined here. As far as the communication requirements are concerned, they should be clearly defined to facilitate the transfer of information between the program and its components. There must not be any ambiguity about it. And naturally, from program to the appropriate stakeholders, very clear communication has to happen, and we should not be vague about it. With the appropriate content and delivery method, that all has to be defined. Communication requirements specific to particular stakeholders should be included in the stakeholder register. So in stakeholder engagement, we develop the stakeholder register. In a column in the stakeholder register, you must specify the communication requirements of that stakeholder. As a program progresses, other components are added and new stakeholders become known and addressed. This distinction should be considered when planning communications. How we can accommodate new stakeholders, how will they be identified when they become visible, and how our communication plan will be amended accordingly. Again, a subject for change control, but somebody has to keep an eye on new stakeholders. Then culture and language differences, time zones, and other factors in a multicultural environment associated with globalization should be considered when developing the program communication management plan. Although complex, program communication management planning is vital to the success of any program. The outputs would naturally be the communication management plan itself, program communication management plan, and the second important thing is communication requirements input to the stakeholder register. So this is also an important feature, that all the relevant communication requirements must be shown in the stakeholder registered against the relevant stakeholder. Cost. Program cost estimating is performed throughout the course of the program. Many organizations use a tiered funding process with a series of go-no-go decisions at each major stage of the program. They agree to an overall financial management plan and commit to a budget only for the next stage at each governance milestone. So, program, as we know, is a very long endeavor. We may be going on with a program for a decade or so. So, the whole of the budget for the program is not decided out front. So, there are go no go points, and it's a tiered funding kind of a mechanism in which we say, okay, for first year of the program, this much is the funding allocated, and by the end of that 1 year, we will decide the funding for the next phase, next period. So this will go in series. Although a broad estimation could have been done in the beginning, but actually the release of funding is going to be tiered. So they agree to an overall financial management plan, which is done in the beginning, and commit to the budget only for the next stage at each governance milestone. Confidence factor. A weight or probability may be applied based on the risks and complexity of the work to be performed in order to derive a confidence factor in the estimate. How sure are we that the estimate we have given is going to be is going to remain the same? It is not going to change. If we have more confidence that the estimate we have given is pretty much sure and it is not going to change, the confidence factor is very high. So we can have a confidence factor associated with each estimate. We can say this estimate is 70%, the confidence factor is 70%, and this estimate, the confidence factor is only 10%. Statistical techniques such as Monte Carlo simulation can be used to do that. This confidence factor is used to determine the potential range of program costs. So we would know over the life of the program how our confidence factor is fluctuating. Total cost of ownership. When determining program costs, decision makers need to consider not only the development and implementation cost, but also the sustainment cost, because the transition and sustainment is also a subject of program management. We just do not create a product and leave it there. We will have to seek benefits out of it, and we have to transfer it in a very planned way, and ultimately sustaining it to the sustaining organization. So the sustainment cost comes beyond the project cost or the product cost, because we are converting and transferring and sustaining in during that period. So as far as sustainment is responsibility of the program, till that time that cost will be included in the program. When you have handed it over to another organization or the receiving organization, from that time onwards, they are responsible for the sustainment, further sustain. But as far as the program is concerned, program is only responsible for sustainment till it hands over the benefit to the receiving organization. Calculating full life cycle cost and including transition and sustainment cost result in total cost of ownership. So once we have the transition and sustainment cost added to our development and implementation cost, that gives us the total cost of ownership. Total cost of ownership is considered to be relative to the expected benefits of one program against another to derive a funding decision. So this could be, the yearly funding you're getting, you may be judged against your total cost of ownership as far as other programs are concerned. You are to be compared with other programs. Any program which is having better performance, their total cost of ownership is better. So that is a candidate for getting more funding. So this is kind of a portfolio decision. how much funding is to be allocated to which program. There are numerous estimating techniques to derive program cost estimates. Program cost estimates should also identify any critical assumptions upon which the estimates are made, as these assumptions may prove unfounded in the course of program delivery and require reconsideration of the program business case or revision to the program management plan. So that can happen. We have already said that due to progressive elaboration, certain critical assumptions may go wrong, and ultimately you may even have to sometimes amend your business case. And amendment of business case is pretty, dangerous, because if the business case is amended, maybe business case may not remain feasible anymore, and the program will have to be closed down at that stage. Program cost estimate should also identify any critical assumptions upon which the estimates are made, as these assumptions may prove unfounded. I think I already talked about it. Component level, that is the project cost. Program cost estimation can support or guide cost estimation at the component level. So this is the guidance provided by the program manager. According to his program cost estimation, he can give a kind of a boundary to the project manager or the component manager about a general idea about the cost estimate he may be expecting. But naturally, it is the job of the component manager to decide the cost of his component, but remaining within the general guideline of the program cost estimation. Any prevailing program level cost estimation guidance intended for use at the component level should be documented and communicated to the component manager. This should be a formal process of communicating the estimation guidelines to the component manager. The output would be the cost estimates, the cost estimation assumptions, and if there are any cost estimation guidelines. So there are three outputs coming out of it: cost estimates, cost estimation assumptions, and component cost estimation guidelines if you are providing some. Then comes the financial framework establishment. Financial framework is not cost. Financial framework is overall financial environment in which the things are happening. Type of program and the funding structure dictate the financial environment for the duration of the program. What kind of financial environment, from where the funding is coming, how much funding is coming, in what installments this funding is going to be coming. Funding models vary from those that are funded entirely within a single organization. If the money is coming from only one source, then probably the model is going to be different. Managed within a single organization but funded separately. Funded and managed entirely from outside the parent organization, and supported with internal and external sources of funding. So it all depends upon how you are getting the funding and how you are going to be managing the program. That will dictate what funding model you will be adopting. So funding sources and their timing has to be certain. How much money and from where is going to be coming to the program. Often the program itself may be funded by one or more sources, and the program component may be funded by altogether different sources. This is a more complex situation in which funding for the program is coming from somewhere else and the funding for the components is coming from somewhere else. This could also be true. In addition to funding sources, the timing of funding has a direct impact on a program's ability to perform. When this funding is going to be available? To a much greater extent than for projects, program costs occur earlier, often years earlier than their related benefits. You see, the components will finish much before the program has finished. And therefore, they have the shorter lifespan, and their results will become apparent quite earlier. Whereas to realize a benefit and to get the ultimate, you know, ultimate outcome out of it would take years. So that's why it says to a much greater extent than for projects, program cost occurs earlier. Program start spending without getting any benefits, whereas projects you can kind of measure how much has been spent and how much has been done, but for program the results are going to come much later. Program financing. Objective of financing in program development is to obtain funds to bridge the gap between paying out monies for development and obtaining the benefits of the programs. So the gap which is more between funding and benefit realization, we need to bridge that gap with continuous flow of funding. This is what you plan in your financing. Covering this large negative cash balance is the most effective manner is a key challenge in program financing. This is the art of the financial expert in program. He would design it in such a way that you do not starve of money at any point in time. So it should be properly orchestrated. Due to the large amount of money involved in most programs, the funding organization is rarely a passive partner, but instead has significant inputs to program management and to decisions made by the business leads, technical leads, and program managers. They become the key stakeholders. They may be having a seat in the steering committee of the program. So they are important partners. They are not just passive partners. They are important and they are involved. Due to this, communications with the program sponsor and other key stakeholders should be proactive and timely. I hope you understand that we have to be proactive. We have to keep prompting them. How do they feel? How things are going? Is it all right? So you have to keep the funding organization specially satisfied. You have to be proactive in asking them rather than waiting for them to blurt out their comments. Financial framework is a high-level initial plan for coordinating available funding, determining the constraints, and determining how funding is allocated. So this is a broad outline plan, high-level initial plan about funding. The financial framework defines and describes the program funding flows so that the money is spent as efficiently as possible. That is the purpose. We want to spend money as efficiently as possible. A good financial management plan for the program would ensure that. And what is the impact on the business case? As the program financial framework is developed and analyzed, changes may be identified that impact the original business case justifying the program. Based on these changes, the business case is revised with full involvement of decision makers. So no financial framework was there when we created the business case. Now, when we have an efficient financial framework created, the business case may have to be reviewed and may be revised. It is important to understand the specific and unique needs of the program sponsor and the funding organizations, representatives with regard to financial arrangements. They are very much concerned about it. This is the biggest concern they may have. Where our funding is going? How is it being spent? Is it justifiable? Is it effectively being used? Efficiently being used? The program communications management and stakeholder engagement plans may need updates to reflect these needs. Therefore, our regular communication and stakeholder engagement directly related with the financial management. So, financial framework would help us improve or further revise our program communication plan and the stakeholder engagement plan. So the outputs are naturally the program financial framework, business cases may be updated, and program communication management and stakeholder engagement plans may also be updated accordingly. So program financial management planning comprises of the activities like identifying the program's financial sources and resources, integrating the budgets of the program components, developing the overall budget for the program, and controlling cost during the program. So this is the overall responsibility of the program financial. In this context, the program financial management plan is a component naturally of the program management plan that documents all of the program financial aspects: funding schedules and milestones, initial budget, contract payments and schedules, financial reporting activities and mechanisms, and financial metrics. All of this must be included in your financial management plan. They must be covered. Some management items coming out of it: risk reserves will be determined due to the financial management planning or the framework. Potential cash flow problems must be identified. International exchange rate fluctuations must be taken care of. Future interest rate increase or decrease, inflation, currency devaluation, local new laws regarding finances, trends in material costs, and contract incentive and penalty clauses. Remember, these are not the cost issues, these are the financial issues. So they must be taken care in the financial management planning. The financial management plan should include an approval or authorization process to allocate funds for program components. So here we again go back to the steering committee for the approval of the financial management plan. For programs that are funded internally, either through retained earnings, bank loans, or the sales of bonds, the program manager should consider scheduled contract payments, inflation and aforementioned factors, and other environmental factors. So program manager must take into account, even if the funding is coming internally from a single source, even then program manager has to keep in mind when certain payments are to be made, what is the likely inflation going to be, and other environmental factors. When developing the program financial management plan, program managers should also include any component payment schedules, operational costs, and infrastructure costs. They must all be included in whatever you have decided in the cost management, that funding has to be procured. So the financial management plan must have those values. Now coming over to the financial baseline, developing the program's initial budget involves compiling all available financial information and listing all income and payment schedules in sufficient detail so that the program cost can be tracked as part of the program budget. Once baselined, the budget becomes the primary financial target that the program is measured against. And I am not saying that you can't change it, but naturally that will tantamount to a change request. So the baseline is not with the cost here, the baseline is with the financials. So once it is baseline, budget becomes your target, primary target to achieve. It is important to develop financial metrics. If you have a baseline, you must have metrics. How to measure that you are going according to the financial plan or not, by which the program benefits are measured. This is usually a challenge, as cause-effect relationships are often difficult to establish in an endeavor the size and length of a program. One of the tasks of the program team and program steering committee is to establish and validate these financial performance indicators. Then we have financial risks. As changes to cost, schedule, scope occur throughout the duration of the program, these metrics are measured against the initial metric used to approve the program. financial framework which was initially perceived, the metrics are designed according to that. But if the cost, schedule, or scope changes, what will be the impact on the framework? They may have to be revised. Decisions to continue, cancel, or modify the program are based in part on the results of these financial measures. So, program financial risks that are identified as part of the financial management plan should be incorporated into the program risk register. So, this risk register is going to be a live document which will register and record all possibilities of financial risk happening. The outputs of this financial management planning are naturally the financial management plan itself, initial program budget, program funding schedules, component payment schedules, program operational costs, inputs to program risk register, and financial metrics. So there are a lot many things, and this is an important area. Then comes the program information management planning. The program information management plan is a component of the program management plan. Naturally, all of these domains are components to the program management plan that describe how the program's information assets will be prepared, collected, organized, and secured. It is often composed of information management policy, distribution list, appropriate tools, templates, and reporting formats. Such information will be gathered and retrieved through a variety of media, including, maybe on the, your data could be, information could be on a filing system, maybe in a database, maybe in a project management software or a system that allows access to technical documentation such as engineering drawing, design specifications, and test plan. So all the information about this program must be centrally allocated on some system, a manual system, a filing system, or electronic system, or a more formalized software or a system of project management. Program information distribution methods are determined once the program's information management system is determined. How and when this information is to be distributed, what are the access rights of various stakeholders. Then is the information technology that allows for rapid dissemination of large amounts of data to a large number of recipients, which requires careful planning and setup of the program's information management system. So what technology is available to you that will greatly influence how you communicate, how you pass on the information. Maybe you do not have any automated means available, so you may have to resort to the filing system. The output of this would be program information management plan and the information management tools and templates. Okay. Next is the program procurement. Procurement management is the application of knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques necessary to acquire products and services to meet the needs of the overall program and the constituent projects and components. Now it says acquire products or services. The question could be, program is not really concerned about the product and services. It is not concerned about the deliverable. It is more concerned about the benefit. So why are we talking about the products and services? That is why, because procurement can only be done for a product or service. It cannot be done for the benefits. And the product and services would be the responsibility of various components. But once various projects are running under the program and they have got their own procurement needs, program is a very good platform to unify those procurement requirements and do all the procurement work at a central platform. That is why this area is required to be included in the program domains. Program procurement management planning addresses the activities necessary to acquire products and services, and therefore the specific procurement needs that are unique to managing the overall program and the needs of the constituent components. Program procurement management plan is naturally a component of the program management plan that describes how the program will acquire goods and services from outside of the performing organization. The program manager should understand the resources required for the delivery of benefits expected of the program. So, program manager should have a very clear understanding of all the resources he may be requiring during the performance of the program. Techniques such as make or buy decisions, which you must be very well aware from your project management knowledge, and program work breakdown structure charts, which we are going to be discussing in the scope. So, as I described earlier, you will have project WBS, but a program WBS has to be created, which is more, um, broader in structure than a project work breakdown structure, but this will aid in this activity. Program manager needs to be cognizant of the available funding and the needs of all components. We need to do some early and intensive planning, which is critical for successful program procurement management. Through the planning activity, the program manager looks across all program components and develops a comprehensive plan that optimizes the procurement to meet program objectives and for the delivery of program benefits. To do this, program procurement management addresses commonality and differences for the various procurement across the program scope and determines through the planning activity, the program manager looks across, and determine, number one, whether some of the common needs of several individual components could best be met with the overall procurement. That is the centralization of procurement. If the same kind of procurement is being done by more than one components or projects, then probably program should take on the procurement process for all the projects, as if it can be consistent and centralized. Then the second option is the best mix of the types of procurement contracts planned across the program at the component level. A particular type of contract, for example, a firm fixed price, may appear to be the best procurement solution, but a different contract type, incentive fee, may be optimal for the same procurement when viewed at the program level. You see, the procurement decision may change just because we are looking at it from what angle. If we are looking at it from the angle of the program, the procurement decision and the type of contract may change. The best program-wide approach to competition, for example, the risks of sole source contracts in one area of program could be balanced with the different risks associated with full and open competition in other areas of program. So you have to do some mix and match. In some areas where this is necessary, there is no other option available to you than to select a single source. You can balance it out by giving other areas a wider publicity. Last point here is best program-wide approach to balancing specific external regulatory mandates. For example, rather than setting aside a certain percentage of each contract in the program to meet a small business mandate, it may be optimal to award one complete contract to achieve the same mandate. So rather than having small little contract being awarded to 20 different contractors, maybe you can go for a blanket contract of all the 20 things being given to one person, one contractor who will have the expertise of all those 20. They may join hands together, and contract can be handed over to a single party. Then we have the alternatives analysis. Often an analysis of alternatives is performed in the planning stage. This may include the request for information, that is, before you decide whether you are going for procurement or not, you may need to have certain information gathered from the market. So you may circulate some request for information RFIs, and in response to that, various people will turn back to you and give you ideas. You can have feasibility studies whether we should be doing this job ourselves or it should be done by a third party. Trade studies could help you. Market analysis could help you to determine the best fit of solutions and services to meet the specific needs of the program. Due to the inherent need to optimize the program procurement management and the requirements to adhere to all legal and financial obligations, it is essential that all personnel responsible for procurement at the component level work closely together, especially during the planning. So if we are having a centralized system, then the project procurement teams should work together with the program procurement team. They must be working very closely to each other. The output of procurements would be the program procurement standards, program procurement management plan, and the program budget or financial plan update in light of the procurement. Next is the quality. Program quality management planning identifies the organizational or regulatory quality standards that are relevant to the program as a whole and specifies how to satisfy them across the program. Program quality management plan is a component of the program management plan that describes how an organization's quality policies will be implemented. Naturally, I have given you the example of ISO. So if you have got a quality policy in vogue, then naturally your program will be constrained to follow the same path. Often within a program, there are many different quality assurance requirements as well as different testing and quality control methods and activities. So whatever your organization's mechanism is, you will follow that. Program quality management is the activities of the performing organization that determine program quality policies, objectives, and responsibilities so that the program will be successful. Program quality management aims to align these varying requirements and control methods and may add additional ones to ensure overall program quality. So here we are talking about the program quality, not the organizational quality. Organizational quality, as I said, was our constraint. We have to follow that. But if that is not the case, then program quality management has to be devised. It is a good practice for the program manager to document the overall program's quality objective and principles in a quality policy that is shared with all program components. Now we are talking about the quality policy of the program. If there is no quality policy of the organization, then we have to create a quality policy for our program. Responsible program management is responsible for the planning of the proper quality assurance criteria throughout the life cycle of the program, which may in fact exceed the timeline of the individual components. So quality assurance goes beyond the component size. Quality, when the product will be delivered by a project to the program, until the benefit is realized, we will keep assuring the quality of that product, of the process. New quality control tools, activities, and techniques may be introduced into the program and employed when appropriate. For example, when new laws are enacted or new components are introduced during the program life cycle, so we will keep adding new quality control tools as required. When initiating the program, the cost of level of quality requirements should be evaluated and incorporated into the business plan. I've already said that quality depends upon the customer or the stakeholder. What quality they require, the cost would be accordingly assessed. So that was as far as the cost was concerned. Quality is a variable cost in all components and should be considered as such in the program quality management plan. So there is a cost of quality. It is beneficial to analyze program quality in order to evaluate it across the program with a goal of combining quality tests and inspection in order to reduce cost where feasible. So if you have to add these quality tests and audits and inspection, then probably you have to pay for that. And that is the additional cost, which might not be there in your budget if you have not considered. So this is the variable cost. Coordinated testing. If the tests are not coordinated, products and deliverables could be tested several times throughout a program and a cost incurred for no valid reason. It should be noted that the output of this activity is a quality management plan that provides the quality assurance measures and quality controls that are incorporated in the program and the methods of inspection based on program scope. Quality management should be considered when defining all the program management activity as well as for every deliverable and service. So again, I would say we have to be proactive as far as quality is concerned. For example, when developing a program resource management plan, it is recommended that a program quality manager participate in the planning activity to verify the quality activities and controls are applied and flow down to all the components, including those performed by subcontractor. Quality is such an important subject that right from the inception of the project or program, you should start the quality activities. Later you bring in the quality people, more are the chances that your project or program will not succeed. So the outcomes coming out of the quality management plan are naturally the quality policy, programs quality policy, not talking about the organization's quality policy, programs quality policy, program quality standards, program quality estimate of the cost, quality metrics, service level agreements are memorandums of understanding, quality checklists for quality control, quality assurance and control specifications. All of these many things will have to be coming out of the quality management plan as output. Program resource management planning. Again, you see, we did our estimation in the beginning. Even in formulation, we did have some kind of estimate about resources, but I said that is a high level estimation. So these things are highly fluctuating. Great level of uncertainty is there. Resource management at the program level is different from resource management at the component level. In projects, we could be very specific, a lot more specific than the program. A program manager needs to work within the bound of uncertainty and balance the need of the components for which he or she is responsible. Program resource management ensures all required resources, people, equipment, and material, etc., are made available to the component managers to enable the delivery of benefits for the program. Resource management planning involves identifying existing resources and the need for additional resources. Existing resources are resources within the organization, and if you have to acquire certain resources, then those resources must be properly identified at the right time. So resource management planning is responsible for identifying existing and additional resources. In case of human resources, sum of resources needed to successfully complete each component can be less than the total quantity of resources needed to complete the program. Because the resources can be reallocated between components as the components are completed. I hope you understand this point, that if you hire a person permanently, he may not be used fully on a program all the time. He may be free a lot of time. So maybe this person can be allocated to other programs or projects in the spare time. That way you can reduce a lot of cost. Program manager analyzes the availability of each resource in terms of both capacity and capability, and determine how these resources will be allocated across components to avoid overcommitment or inadequate support. This is very important. If you are dealing with human beings, uh, then it is not a machine. You must know how much can you load a person. You must not overcommit a resource, or it may result in inadequate support. And this is not only true for human beings, human resources, but other resources also. You cannot make a machine work 24 hours a day. It has to be, cooled down sometime. Historical information may be used to determine the types of resources that were required for similar projects and programs. The resource management plan is a component of the program management plan that forecasts the expected level of resource use across the program components and relative to the program master schedule to allow the program manager to identify potential resource shortfalls and conflicts over the use of scarce or constrained resources. I hope you understand the difference, the scarce resources uh, which are less in number, and they are required more by a lot many departments or projects or whatever. So you have to use them very intelligently. These are constrained resources. You have to use them very carefully and put them on the most important and most useful job. The plan also describes the guidelines for making program resource prioritization decisions and resolving resource conflicts. Statement of work. I hope you understand what a statement of work is from your project management knowledge. Statement of work is the document which you create the for for the work you have to outsource. When resources are unavailable within the program manager calls upon the larger organization for assistance. When necessary, the program manager should work with the organization to develop a statement of work to contract the necessary resources. So when you are outsourcing your work to some outside party, third party, then you have to create a statement of work. The output of this activity could be the resource requirements and the resource management plan. Then we have the risk management planning. Program risk management planning identifies how to approach and conduct risk management activities for a program by considering its components. You see, we did have an assessment of the risk in the formulation, but that was not enough. Here we go a bit deeper, and we try to identify not only the risk within the program, but within the components which are affecting the program or the benefit or strategy also. The principles for risk management should be applied as outlined in the practice standard for project risk management. Rather, now the new standard for practice standard for uh, risk management is called program and project risk management. Risk management plan is a component of the program management plan that describes how risk management activities will be structured and performed. Planning risk management activities ensure that the level, type, and visibility of risk management are appropriate based on the risks and importance of the program to the organization. It identifies the resources and time required for risk management activities. In addition, it establishes an agreed upon basis for evaluating risks. Uh, Proactivity, we identify the risks, program risks, as early as possible. To be proactive, so we conducted early in the program definition phase, as we did already while we are assessing it. It is crucial for the successful performance of other activities described in this section, because if we have not identified the risk, a lot many things in the assessment phase, in the assessment level, will be impacted. So while we are creating the program management plan, the risk management plan is going to be much more detailed now. It may also need to be repeated whenever major changes occur in the program. This is very simply written here. It is not only whenever major changes occur, but when we have to keep doing the risk assessment, risk identification throughout the life of the program after regular intervals. We don't wait for some changes to come, but otherwise also we keep doing them on a fortnightly basis or something like that. Key output of this activity is a program risk register, which is the document in which the risks are recorded together with the results of risk analysis and risk response planning. Program risk register is a living document that is updated as program risk and risk response changes during the program delivery. So while we are in delivery phase or in execution of the program, we keep updating this risk register all the time. It is essential to define risk profiles of organizations to construct the most suitable approach to managing program risks, adjusting risk sensitivity, and monitoring risk criticality. Risk targets and risk thresholds influence the program management plan. Risk profiles may be expressed in policy statement or revealed in action. Then organizational willingness also plays a major role. These actions may highlight organizational willingness to embrace high threat situations or a reluctance to forego high opportunity choices. This is, we are talking about the appetite of the organization. Tolerance. Market factors that apply to the program to its components should be included as an environmental factor. Culture of the organization and stakeholders also play a role in shaping the approach to risk management. Organizations may have predefined approaches to risk management, such as risk categories, common definition of concepts and terms, risk statement formats, standard templates, roles and responsibilities, authority levels for decision making. Many organizations have devised their own mechanisms. They use specific approaches and tools. So that is good if that thing is existing. But for those where these things are not existing, you must consider all of these things uh, for better risk management. Lessons learned from executing similar programs in the past are also critical assets to be reviewed as a component of establishing an effective risk management plan. The output would be the risk management plan and the risk register. Then we come over to the schedule. The program schedule management activity determines the order and timing of the components needed to produce the program benefits, when which components are to be done, and approximately how much time it will take. Estimate the amount of time required to accomplish each one. Identify significant milestones during the performance of the program. So once we have components identified, their sequence established, order established, timing, then we can easily have defined the milestones for the program. Document the outcomes of each milestone. But what is expected from each milestone? Typically, a program schedule is developed collaboratively with components, or component schedules are elaborated. So you will create an outline plan first, and then you will allow the project managers or the component managers to create their own detailed plans, and those plans come back to the program manager, and he then unifies those plans. And if something is not really good for the program, or it is not in alignment with how the things are happening in the program, he may advise the project manager or the component manager to change it. So this is to be done in a lot of collaborative environment. Program components include projects, subsidiary programs, other work undertaken to deliver the program scope. So all of these components have to be very collaboratively dealt with. Program schedule management planning begins with the program scope management plan, which should already be available, and the work breakdown structure for the program. These two things will only be available when the scope is done, and scope we have yet not studied. The next topic coming up is scope, but these two things are going to be coming from the scope, the program scope management plan, and the program WBS, which defines how the program components are expected to deliver the program's outputs and benefits. Then, as I said, outline plan. So you create an initial program master schedule. The initial program master schedule is often created before the detailed schedules of the individual components are available. The program's delivery date and major milestones are developed using the program roadmap, which you created in the program management plan and the program charter. Program master schedule is the top level program planning document that defines the individual component schedules and dependencies among program components, individual components and program level activities required to achieve the program goal. It should include these component milestones that represent an output to the program or share interdependency with other components. Both ways, anything coming out of the component must be registered, simply put. Should also include activities that are unique to the program but not limited to activities related to stakeholder engagement, risk, program level risk mitigation, program level reviews, etc. Program master schedule determines the timing of individual component, number one. Number two, it enables the program manager to determine when benefits will be delivered by the program. And number three, it identifies the external dependencies of the program. The first draft of a program master schedule often only identifies the order and start and end dates of the component and their key interdependencies with other components. Later, it may be enriched with more intermediate component results as the component schedules are developed. So we can be more, sure about certain dates. Once the high-level program master schedule is determined, when a component has multiple deliverables upon which other components rely, these deliverables and interdependencies should be reflected in the overall program master schedule. So, if external entities or activities from another component are dependent on one component's activities, then this is a program level subject, and the coordination of that must be done by the program, and such like dependencies must be revealed to the program manager and must be clearly shown in the overall master schedule, program master schedule. When a program is established over a set of existing components, the program master schedule needs to incorporate the milestones and deliverables from individual component schedules. The schedule model principles outlined in practice standard for scheduling should be applied to the program master schedule also. So practice standard for scheduling is not only for the projects, it applies to the program also. So master schedule concept is given there. Maintaining a logic based program network diagram and maintaining the critical path for component outputs with interdependencies is essential to effective management of the program master schedule, while focusing on benefits realization based on deliverables along the critical path. Now, do not be confused. The network diagram for the program is not going to be as restrictive as the project network diagram is. Though there will be a critical path here, but you understand that in program that things can change more easily rather than in projects. The program schedule management plan is a component of the program management plan that establishes the criteria and the activities for developing, monitoring, and controlling the schedule. Program schedule management plan should include guidance on how changes to schedule baseline are to be coordinated and controlled across program component, and this specific thing is also addressed in the change management plan. Program master schedule identifies the agreed upon sequence of component deliverables to facilitate effective planning of the individual component deliveries and of expected benefits. It provides the program team stakeholders with a visual representation of how the program is going to be delivered through its life cycle. So this is kind of a Gantt chart. Program master schedule is a living document and provides the program manager with a mechanism to identify risks and escalate component issues that may affect the program goals. Program schedule risk inputs that are identified as part of the program master schedule development should be incorporated into the program risk register, because risk register, as we said, is a live document. It will keep growing as we move on. So while we are doing the schedule, creating the master schedule of the program, many risks may be identified and added to the program risk register. These risks may be result of component dependencies within the schedule or on external factors identified as a result of agreed upon program schedule management plan. Program schedule management plan may establish scheduling standards that apply to all program components. Then we have the program roadmap and changes. Program roadmap should periodically be assessed and updated to ensure alignment between the program roadmap and the program master schedule. Remember, program master schedule was a more detailed document based on the program roadmap. Now, they both must remain aligned. If there is a change in roadmap, program master schedule has to be updated accordingly. Or if a program master schedule has been created after some progressive elaboration, maybe the program roadmap will also have to be realigned and changes to be made. Changes in program master schedule may require changes in the program roadmap, and changes in the program roadmap should be reflected in the program master schedule. Exactly the point which I was discussing. So program roadmap and changes, the output would be program schedule management plan, program master schedule, inputs to the program risk register, and updates to the program roadmap. Last but not the least is the scope. Creating a WBS and developing a program scope statement. Program scope management planning includes all of the activities involved in planning and aligning the program scope with the program's goals and objectives. And I said this scope is the most important of all the domains. It includes work decomposition into deliverable component products designed to deliver the associated benefits. So we will break down the program down to the level where the product is for the component is defined. Rest of the breakdown would be part of the project WBS. So from the program WBS, we are only concerned about the delivery of the associated benefit and identification of the component product. Objective is to develop a detailed program scope statement, break down the program work into deliverable components, and develop a plan for managing the scope throughout the program. Program scope objective is to develop a detailed program scope statement, break down the program into components, and develop a plan for managing the scope throughout the program, as I said before. Program scope is typically described in the form of expected benefits, but may also be described as user stories or scenarios depending on the type of program. Now, once we talk about user stories and scenarios, that means we are kind of talking about agile way of working. But yes, of course, you can define the expected benefit, because the things are not really very clear in programs, and naturally we have to relate them through some similes. So these user stories and scenarios would give us a very good tool for defining our expected benefits. Program scope encompasses all benefits to be delivered by the program, which are reflected in the form of program work breakdown structure, which is a deliverable oriented hierarchical decomposition. Deliverable oriented hierarchical decomposition, and when you define the deliverable for a specific component, that is all. How the deliverable will be made, that is the responsibility of the project. So encompassing the total scope of the program, and it includes the deliverables to be produced by the constituent components. Elements not in the program WBS are outside of the scope of the program. They may be in scope for the project, but they are outside of the scope of the program. Program WBS includes but is not limited to program management artifacts such as plans, procedures, standards, processes, program management deliverables, program management office support deliverables, and so on and so forth. So program WBS is not restricted to the components or projects only. This will include, development of anything related to program, and components may also be part of it. Program WBS provides an overview of the program and shows how each component contributes to the objective of the program. Decomposition stops at the level of control required by the program manager, typically to the first one or two levels of a component. Program WBS serves as a framework for developing the program master schedule and defines the program manager's management control points. It is an essential tool for building realistic schedules, developing cost estimates, and organizing work. It also provides a framework for reporting, tracking, and controlling. Program level deliverables should be clearly linked to benefits. That is very important because in program we are more concerned about how those deliverables are translated into benefits and focus on those activities associated with stakeholder engagement, program level management, such as opposed to management within the component, and component oversight and integration. Program scope includes scope that is decomposed and allocated into components. Care should be taken to avoid. This I have already said. Once the scope is developed, a plan for managing, documenting, and communicating scope changes should be developed during the program definition phase. The program scope management plan is a component of the program management plan that describes how the scope will be defined, developed, monitored, and controlled. Outputs of this is the scope statement, the scope management plan, and the program WBS. That is what I can cover for today. That is the first topic we have completed, and that was the program program formulation and planning. Tomorrow, or next lecture, when we sit together, we will have program delivery phase described. And I hope after having discussed the planning in detail, there's not much left in delivery and closure. So we will be able to complete it in one day. If you just look at it, how many we have almost done half of the slides, and half of the slides are to be covered in the remaining one lecture. Maybe we can have one or two lectures more. Next week we have two classes, and then we finish off with the course. Any comments, any questions?
Yeah, you said earlier, you said measuring the roadmap is basically asking, are we able to realize the benefit or not? And this is what you measure against the program. Can you, maybe you mentioned, can you tell me about a portfolio? How would you measure that?
Okay, in portfolio we do not have a roadmap. Portfolio is completely a different ball game. In portfolio, what we do is we are more on the business analysis side. We link the organizational strategy to which changes are to be brought into the organization, and those changes could be brought through projects or programs. That is what it really is. We don't have a roadmap there. We don't need to have a roadmap for portfolio, but we have sorted lists of various proponent projects and programs which could be included into the portfolio, and then a detailed analysis is carried out which projects or programs can be most beneficial for the organization, fulfilling the specific goals and objectives and the strategy of the organization, and they will be included. When you have chosen the projects and programs, and you start conducting them, program managers and project managers are actually implementing those projects. Then you keep assessing which project is yielding what results. Basically, portfolio is also looking at the performance of each project and program from the benefit point of view, because the benefits are actually going to the organization and fulfilling the organizational strategic needs. If some project does not fulfill those requirements, portfolio has the authority to kill that project. Naturally, through a portfolio level steering committee, but portfolio will have that power. So there is no question of a roadmap being there in a portfolio. Did I answer your question?
Okay. Yes, I got it.
Okay. So next class would be on next Monday evening, and I hope
Okay.
I will complete this lecture there. And after that, we will have one more class to summarize everything. I hope that is fine.
Yep. Hopefully, hopefully we'll get to it next week, so we can conclude.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't mind if we have to meet again for some further queries and clarification. We can plan that. But as far as I'm concerned, the course will finish next week.
Yep. Sure. That's fine. I have to, once we're done, I plan to read a book. I have some material to go over, and then I'll re-go through the sessions that were recorded.
Mm-hmm.
And once that's done, I will most likely have another session.
Mm-hmm. That's okay.
Yeah.
You can coordinate with Freyal, and then we can set up another time, maybe a month later or 2 months later, and we can answer all your questions.
Okay. It's gonna take me more than that, but that's okay. I'll work on that. Okay. Well, thank you so much for your help with this.
Take care. Bye.
Okay.